Hey, what's up, my friend? Keala Kanae here, and in this video, we're gonna talk about one of my favorite topics, right? Selling, closing, getting to the sale, getting on the phone with a prospect or bringing a prospect through a sales sequence and closing the deal is one of my favorite topics in the world, so stick with me here. Let's go. All right, so when it comes to sales, right, I've trained dozens and dozens of salespeople at this point inside of my company. At one point, we even had as much as 26 people on our phones full-time taking sales calls. And what I'm about to go over with you here is the core component of our sales training. In fact, I think this is the core component of all sales altogether whatsoever. And most people skip over this part and they think of sales in terms of sales tactics, like a closing tactic or objection handling. But really, the truth is that that comes after this component that we have here. And if this component is done right, the tactics and the objection handling won't matter. It takes care of the majority of that before it even happens. And yet, if this component is done wrong, which again, most people don't even know about this, if this component is done wrong, then no amount of closing tactics or objection handling is ever gonna save that sale. Now, before we get into this though, it's gonna be important that we both agree on what is a sale actually, right? Like, so let's define this. What is a sale? Okay. Now, when I've been at masterminds or events and I've spoken to audiences and I ask, well, what is a sale? There's all sorts of answers, but I don't think I've ever heard the answer that I'm about to give you, right? So people will say, well, it's when you exchange money for a product or service, or it's when somebody buys something or whatever it might be, right? Plainly put, a sale is simply an exchange of value. Right? So in other words, somebody perceives that they're getting something of value, a product or service of value, and in exchange for that, they're exchanging something else that they also value. Could be money most of the times. I mean, that's what we're talking about typically when we're talking about sales, but sometimes people will trade their time for that thing. Hey, you do this for me and I'll do this X, Y, and Z for you, or I'll put in X, Y, and Z hours, right? If somebody is an employee, that's what they're doing. They're exchanging their time for money. Because that's what, that's the exchange, that's the value. So when we're selling a product or a service, typically this is where things go wrong. In that we're trying to sell somebody on the product or the service itself. And instead, what we're really trying to do is help them see the value in that product or service. You're gonna understand what I mean here in just a moment. So when somebody is in the sales process, when we're in the sales process, right, it's not about the product or service. It's about helping the prospect see the value of the product or service. Now, what's the best way to do that? Because they have to see the value of the product or service greater than the thing that they're exchanging for, right? Nobody buys something for $100 that they think is worth only 20 bucks, right? But they'll buy something for 20 bucks all day long that they think is worth $100. So how do we craft and work with that prospect so that their perception on the thing that we're selling is greater than the price that we're going to ask for in the end? Well, the best way that I've ever seen this explained is actually from Tony Robbins, who said, if you want somebody to value something, explain it in terms of what they already value. Let me repeat that, write that down. If you want somebody to value something, explain it in terms of what they already value. So when we're selling a product or a service, it's not about the features of that product or service. It's not about all the little cool things it does. It's not about all the tiny benefits that it gets. It's about making sure that we have framed it in terms of how it's going to fulfill the prospect's current set of values. All right? And this is where most people go wrong. And to be honest, there's no real surprise about that. This can be a bit confusing because if you ask the average person what their values are, you're typically going to get one of these two sets of answers, maybe both. First, if you ask the average person, well, what are your values? Well, I value integrity, honesty, fairness, respect, equality, whatever. those are not their values. Those are social idealisms, okay? So we're not talking about social idealisms. Now, the next thing that you'll get is what 99.9999% of people will give you if you've explained away social idealisms, is they'll start to tell you with lip service what they value in their life, but they don't actually express that in terms of their behaviors, their actions. So in other words, in that situation, what they're doing is expressing their projected values, what they think that they should value in life: success, family, money, wealth. But you'll talk to people all the time, again, because 99.99999% of people are completely unaware of what's truly driving them. If you talk to people, they'll give you this lip service about one of those things, but their life is not actually expressing it. As an example, if you walk into pretty much any room, anywhere across the world, and say, who here wants to make more money? Probably close to 100% of the hands are going to go up. Well, but only 1% of the world actually has real wealth. Why is that? Because only 1% of the population has the values it takes to create wealth. Everybody will say that they want money, but very few have the values to actually go out and execute and build real long-term wealth, which, that can be a complex topic in and of itself. And I have another training that you might see somewhere around this video where I talk about the hierarchy of values. This comes from Dr. John DeMartini, one of the probably foremost authorities on human behavior. And if there was ever a secret to success and getting what you want out of life, it is definitely in the hierarchy of values. So again, you'll see a video or a link somewhere around here, maybe down in the description, where you can go learn more about the hierarchy of values, which, by the way, if you get clear about your values, it will help you unleash your greatness and your power on the world. Now, so once we understand that somebody buys something because they perceive it as valuable, then we understand then that we must frame our product or service in terms of what they already value, then the sales process really becomes an investigative journey of figuring out what that person already values in their life currently. Not what we think that they value, not what they think that they value, but what their actions express that they truly value in their life, so that they can see how this product or service is going to help them fulfill that value in their life, right? So remember this acronym, STEM. Space stands for space, time, energy, and money. Time, energy, and money. Okay? Now again, this is not from me either. This is actually from Dr. John DeMartini, who again is probably one of the foremost authorities on human behavior ever to walk the face of the earth. And I don't say that lightly. In all of my studies, that guy just crushes it. Okay? Now, space, time, energy, money. What somebody fills their space with, whatever they consider to be their personal space, will usually be an expression of the things that they value most in life. So if you look at my personal space in my office, I have a couple of things. I always have my computer, I always have my phone, and my office is usually filled with my library of books, right? Well, what are my top 3 values in life? My values are my business, 1, learning and leadership. So if I'm not working on my business, I'm usually learning how to be a better leader, better speaker, better trainer, better teacher, being just better at running a business, right? So I'm optimizing myself. And then 3rd, it's leisure. If I'm not doing one of those 2 things, I typically want to go out and hang out with friends, go out to nice dinners, take my girl out to nice dinners, that sorts of thing. And so my phone represents my leisure. It's my connection to the world. It's my social mechanism. My computer represents my business, and my books, my library, represents my learning and my leadership. Those are the things that I keep in my space. Time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day, and most of us are going to sleep for 6 to 8, maybe even more of those hours. So we all start every day with about 18 to 16 hours worth of, workable hours. Where do we spend that time? How do we spend it? Right? So most of us would have some sort of a job or career. Well, we're spending 8 hours a day at that thing, at least, typically, right? Well, there's some reason that we do that. Even if we hate the job, there's a reason that we're doing it. We perceive it to be a means to a certain end, and that end is what we value in life, okay? And then when we're done with that, what else do we do? Some people go home and they spend all their time with their family. They can't wait to get home, pick up the kids, take them home, cook some dinner, do the homework with them, that sort of thing. And others might go home and they love to go spend a couple hours in their workshop working on some sort of a hobby, whether it's woodworking or some sort of arts and crafts, who knows, okay? And then after that, there's typically a third thing that we spend our time on, right? So we can break these down into a hierarchy of the thing that we spend most of our time on every day, second most, third most. Energy, very similarly related to time. Every single day we wake up with a finite amount of energy that we can express throughout our day. Where we focus that energy is typically the things that we value most in life. So again, if we're going to a job every day, even if we hate the job, it's an expression of some form of value, right? When I used to have a job, I hated my job, but I realized that having a job and having an income was going to help me build my business on the side, and eventually it did. So I went to the job every day. I did the best that I could to make the maximum amount of money that I could earn so I could fund my business, right? So it was a means to an end, and it was a way in which I was expressing my value on my business, as an example. Some people love to spend their energy with their kids, their family, their friends, whatever it might be. Like they can't wait until the weekend and they just want to spend all weekend around their family and kids. Who knows, okay? And then another part of that question is what energizes us? What do we always have energy for? For example, I always have energy for speaking and teaching, right? I love, turning on the camera, getting to work, sharing some knowledge, some wisdom, some information, and hopefully impacting lives in the journey. That energizes me. So I always have energy to do it. So where do we spend our energy and what energizes us most? And then money. We will always spend our money in terms of our highest values. If you look at the money that I earn in my business, in my life, you'll see that the majority of my money goes back into the business, right? It goes to covering payroll, taking care of software and expenses, labor, overhead, contractors, all of these various things. If there's whatever money is left, I'll take that out and I begin expressing it in other forms of value, right? I start buying courses, going to masterminds, going to events, learning, becoming a better leader, right? And then leisure. And that's basically exactly how my money filters throughout. If you looked at exactly how it's spent every month, it would be filtered in exactly that proportional range, okay? So where somebody spends their money is going to be an expression of what they truly value in life. So if somebody gets all their money and they spend it on a lot of it on their arts and crafts, that's something that they truly value in their life. No matter what they say, right? Even though they might say, "Oh no, it's just a side thing. It's not that important. It's just a little hobby." That's something that they truly value in their life. Some people, when they earn money, it immediately goes to the family, right? Maybe if it's a mom who highly values raising her children and taking care of her children, then it's going to go to the children's health, children's education, children's sports, children's school supplies, and that sort of thing. Children's after-school programs, after-school activities. And all the money is going to filter. Every dollar that she gets, a large percentage of it is going to be filtered into that thing that she already values, her children, right? A businessman, and I'm not saying this to be sexist, I'm just using, broad kind of stereotypes. A businessman or businesswoman would then, they get money, it goes primarily into their business, right? Refilling the cup of that business, taking care of the business, the employees, the staff, the office, the expenses, all those sorts of things. And then whatever they take out will go to other things that they value in their life. So here's my point. When we are in the sales process, it is our job as a quality salesperson to figure out what does this prospect already value in their life and how can my product or service help them fulfill that value. And the tricky part about this is that you can't always trust what they say because 99.99999% of people, right, are quote unquote full of shit. In other words, they're busy projecting what they think that they should value in life versus being true about and real about what they truly value in their life. And again, there's another video or a link somewhere around here that will take you to a better understanding of that topic, okay? Now, and I suggest that you watch it. It's eye-opening content. So if they're projecting on themselves, so they're saying, well, unconsciously they're doing what they think that the media tells them they're supposed to value, what society tells them, what their parents tell them that they're supposed to value, what their religious beliefs are, whatever it might be, and they're projecting on themselves, and you can't always believe exactly what they say, and that's why it's an investigative process. So in the sales process, we might ask something very simple like, well, if you don't mind me asking, do you have a part of the home or your office that you consider to be your space? Yeah, actually, I have my workshop downstairs in the basement of the home, and I do all my wood crafting there. Hey, great. Can you tell me what do you fill that space with? Well, it's filled full of my tools, my supplies, my paint, saws, drills, whatever, screws. I don't know anything about workshopping, so I don't really know, right? And then I have a few. Well, what else fills that space? Well, I have a few pictures of my family. Hey, can I ask you, when you're not at work and you're not at your job and you're not in the workshop, do you typically spend the rest of the time with the family? Oh yeah, totally. If I'm not doing one of those two things, then the rest of the time is usually spent with the kids or the wife, or maybe going on trips or having dinner together, something like that. Great, so we're starting to discover what they fill their space with. Can I ask you, so-and-so, how would you say that you divide up your time? I mean, how many hours a night do you sleep? Well, I sleep about 6 to 8 hours. I get about 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. Great, so you have about 16 to 18 hours a day. How would you divide that time? I know that you mentioned that you have a job, right? How much time do you spend at that job? Oh, about 8 to 10 hours a day. Okay, great. And do you love the job? No, I don't really like the job. Okay, well, what does that job represent to you then? Because why do you go do it if you don't love it? Well, I got to take care of my family. I got to put a roof over our heads. I take care of the bills. I'm primarily the breadwinner in the family. And so there's a lot of stress on me, burden on my shoulders to take care of the family. Great. So now we're beginning to see how they spend their time, and it's an expression of the family, let's say. When you get off of work, what else do you do? Well, when I get off of work, I love to go to happy hour with some of my coworkers before I go home. We go out, we have a couple of drinks, we kick back, we talk about the job, maybe a little bit, we talk about politics, whatever else is going on in the world, and we have a few cocktails and spend some social time together, and then eventually I'll go home in time for dinner with the family or something like that. Great, so they love some social time, okay? Now, and we can go on and on down that road. Energy. Hey, let me ask you a question. What energizes you? Like, what do you do in your life that you feel always energizes you, always have energy for? Oh, well, I don't really get a whole lot of free time. Yeah, I understand. But when you do have some free time, what do you go and do? Oh, I love watching movies. Actually, I've watched, some of my favorite movies include X, Y, and Z. I'm a big fan of so-and-so director. And I've watched all of their films. I'm a big fan of X, Y, and Z writer, and I've watched all of their films. Great. Okay, so we're starting to figure out the things that always energize them. And if it's not too much to ask, I know that some people might be uncomfortable with this, but I'm really doing my best to understand you so I can understand how we can be of a benefit and service to you on your journey. Jason, let's say as an example, let me ask you, how would you say that you spend, what would you say you spend your money most? And let's remove all of the fluff and the filler. What would your bank account say, if you don't mind me asking? Well, my biggest bill is the mortgage. Great. Well, why do you pay the mortgage? Well, it helps me take care of my family. It helps me, it puts a roof over our heads, keeps us safe and secure. Great. So after you've paid for that big expense, where else do you spend your money? Well, I love painting, right? So I'm always buying new canvases and filling my workshop with new paint and supplies and artwork, or I'll buy artwork from somebody that inspires me. Great. So we're starting to find out what their money expresses in terms of their values. As we go through this investigative journey, we're finding out what they already value in their life. And at the end of that, we can then begin to help them understand how our product or our service is going to help them fulfill those values. So if I'm talking to one of those examples that I just explained, and let's say I'm selling them on a marketing service. Let's say that they have some sort of a business that they're getting set up, and I'm selling them on the service of us doing some marketing for them. Well, then I might tell them, hey, so getting back to the point about our marketing and the service that we provide every month, I just wanted to be clear. What I'm learning from you here in this process is that you would highly value your family. And yes, you love your business, you love your work, but you really highly value your family outside of that. And you want to have more time to spend with your family, and you want to have more time to do some of your hobbies, right? You talked about painting as an example. So I know that you love the painting. Here in our marketing service, what we want to do is we want to take as much of the pressure off of you for marketing, because let's be be real, right? You don't want to be a marketer. That's not why you started your business, right? You love this thing that you do, and that's what you should focus your time on. And so we want to take as much pressure off of you in terms of marketing and customer acquisition. And that way you have more time to spend with your family. That way you have more time for your hobbies. That way you're not running your business all day and then trying to figure out how to market it, how to sell it, how to place ads online, how to build sales funnels, how to get on the phone with prospects and generate sales. No, we want to do a lot of that heavy lifting for you so you can ultimately fulfill the things that you value most in life, which is what you expressed to me on this call. Does that make sense, Jason? Yes, it does. And so, our service starts at about $2,000 a month. If for $2,000 a month, we could give you 10 hours a week of your life back that you could spend with your wife and the kids that you've talked about in this conversation, that you could spend, maybe a few more hours a week enjoying that hobby of painting, getting more supplies. And if we can get you more customers as well, you'll be making more revenue. You'll be able to have more quality time with your family and be able to buy better materials for your art studio. Does that make sense? Oh, yes, it does, right? So it's not about the features or the benefits of our product or service. Everybody that we talk to, if we're selling something, everybody that we're talking to is buying the same product or service. But why they are buying that product or service is the only things that's different, right? And we got to discover, why would they want it? What is their driver? What void are they trying to fulfill in their life? Which, by the way, fulfillment comes from filling full your values. So what void are they trying to fulfill in their life that we can help them fulfill by buying our product or service that we're selling? And that's the ticket. And if we do this right in the sales process, as we're working, whether we're taking them through a sales funnel and epiphanizing them and helping them understand through an automated fashion all the benefits that this is going to provide for their life, or we're on the phone. So when my sales team is on the phone and they're closing $10,000 packages and all these things, this is what they're spending the majority of their time on first, is understanding the human being that they're on the phone with and what does that person already value in their life. At the end of that, then they have the opportunity to pitch our done with you programs and say, hey, do you understand how this product or service is going to benefit everything that we just talked about? Yes, I understand. Now, it becomes much easier to work through the objections. Oh, I'm going to turn this back on. To work through the objections, work through some of the hindrances or the hurdles that come up in the sales process, because the person has a high value. They can see how this is going to fulfill their life and optimize their fulfillment. And so it's not about, well, I can't come up with the money. It's more about, well, how can I come up with the money to do this, because I can see that this is going to be really important in my life, right? And so then we're just working through the objections become minimal in the sales process, and our ability to overcome those objections becomes easier because we can always remind that prospect, remember when we talked about this, and this, and what this was going to do for you, right? So hopefully you get some value out of that. Again, this is the core component from my years of being in sales and marketing, the core component of generating a sale done well. And it does take some practice. It does take some time, and it does take some time of working with a prospect, but done well, this is your leading advantage in sales, right? Is help them understand, or take the time to understand what your prospect already values in life, and then frame your product or service in terms of how it's going to help them fulfill those values. Hopefully you got some value out of this. Drop a comment down below. Let me know, did you learn something from this? What else would you like to learn more about? Be sure to click the like and subscribe and turn on the notifications for this channel so that you don't miss out on any of the future value that I'll be dropping on topics like this and marketing and business and all that sorts of jazz. And most of all, go out there and crush it in your life and your business and go after those big dreams and ambitions, my friend. So go ahead and take the time to subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn on the notifications, click that little bell looking thing, and drop a comment down below. Let me know if you got value out of this and what else you'd love to learn. I'll see you in another video. Take care.